Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another Soulsborne boss tier list. Today we're here to rank all of the bosses in Dark Souls 3. If you haven't already, you should definitely check out the previous videos in the playlist. That'll be linked right around here somewhere. It'll also include some of my criteria for how I rank these bosses, but at the end of the day, it really is just a matter of how much I like them. And, well, I think as most people know, Dark Souls 3 has some really good bosses. Though I think it's become kind of redundant at this point to say with, each video going on from Bloodborne until we get to Elden Ring that, oh, this game has some of the best bosses that FromSoft has ever made. That was actually honestly always kind of redundant because I think almost every game has at least one of their best bosses. But, it feels like the floor for their quality gets a lot better, generally speaking. And we see that in Dark Souls 3. We start off with Utex Gundir, who I would argue is probably the best tutorial boss from any Soulsborne game. It is simply outstanding, if you ask me. It's got a great moveset, it's very solid. If there was anything that I would dock points for, and I will, it's that its Phase 2 is not great. The Pus of Man comes out. It's really cool from like a visual and thematic standpoint. It really kind of sets the tone for the game. But it suffers from the giant enemy camera issues, and it's really hard to see what it's doing most of the time, which is very unfortunate because, for the most part, Gundir's moves in Phase 1 are really well telegraphed. He has great animations. If only we had, some sort of endgame scaled version of Gundir that didn't turn into the Pus of Man and just continued having his great moveset. In the meantime, I would say Utex Gundir is definitely an enjoyable boss. Then we move on to Vort. Vort is kind of like a mix of Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 bosses, and that it's a big guy in armor, but he runs around like a beast and screams all the time, and is a bit erratic. Not really anything wrong with him, but he's pretty basic, not too difficult. I would say he's fairly enjoyable as well. I would probably put him like around here-ish. Curse-Rotted Greatwood. Okay, this is somewhat interesting as a puzzle boss, but generally speaking, puzzle bosses are not the most interesting thing ever. So, goes like up around here. The phase transition's interesting. It's gross. Its moveset's kind of neat, but it doesn't really have much going for it other than that. Next, we have the Crystal Sage. This boss is actually just kind of fucking annoying, honestly. At low levels, all of the spell spam from the doubles can be kind of vicious. You're basically spending the entire second half of the fight just running around, smacking all of the doubles to get rid of them. And the first phase is really just you smacking him, looking for where he shows up, smacking him again, and rinse and repeat until we get to the second phase, which is just that times 5 or so. So, yeah, not particularly enjoyable. Deacons of the Deep. Okay. The Deacons are actually pretty decent as far as like a mob boss goes, because they don't share a health bar. They're not like the Royal Rat Authority. They're not like, I don't know, do we have any other really good comparisons? I feel like there's probably one Prowling Magus in the Congregation. Yeah, Deacons is better because there's actually some degree of complexity to it, and that the health bar gets passed around between the enemies until the second phase shows up, and then you just kind of keep smacking the same one over and over again. I would say the Deacons are actually enjoyable, but they're kind of like low on the enjoyable tier. I'd put them like around here or something. Abyss Watchers. Okay. The Artorias fanboys, everyone got really excited when they saw them in the trailers, and they didn't disappoint at all. Their moveset's really cool. It's kind of very reminiscent of Lady Maria. You can Well, these guys look like they were ripped out of Bloodborne. You can tell these guys took a lot of influence from Bloodborne coming out before Dark Souls 3. Their moveset is fantastic. Having more than one enemy in the boss fight is usually kind of annoying, but they fight each other, so that makes it much more interesting. Then the second phase, it's just a straight up 1v1. The transition cutscene's really cool, it has great music. The moveset, it's basically the same moveset, but you have fire effects added to it, which is really goddamn cool. Overall, they're pretty good. So, these guys definitely go into top quality somewhere. Where? Up here, honestly. Would I put them above Dark Lurker? Yeah, I would. They're really good. They're really, really good. Next we have the Old Demon King. Old Demon King, I wouldn't say they're anything too crazy. You know, they're really slow. A lot of their spells can be a little annoying, because most of them are just you running away from it for the most part. Not terrible. Its melee attacks are fine. The most interesting thing about the Old Demon King is just from like a thematic perspective, and that the last thing it does is just release all of its power in a big AoE, and after it does that, it's just done. It's just totally drained of energy. It can barely do anything as you beat it to death. It's a very sad end to the race of demons. So for those reasons, I'll put it somewhere around here. Put him here. Right up there next to Quelaag. Next we have High Lord Walnir. Walnir, great design, cool vibe to the fight. It's a gimmick puzzle fight, and the poison gas is really fucking annoying. It kind of toes the line here between boring and annoying. We'll put it here. It's a little more on the annoying side. Now, Pontiff Sullivan. The setting. The giant, big, open cathedral. The man just standing there. He doesn't really move until you get a little bit of the ways into the arena. Then his swords ignite. Starts slow walking towards you. Then he's on top of you in half of a second. His moveset is fantastic. His design is really cool. His music is great. The implementation of the double in the second phase is really clever and really good. I like it a lot. I like that it basically tells you what he's going to be doing before he does it. And he's not that hard to parry. Not to mention, Sullivan is basically the bad guy of Dark Souls 3. Every Souls game has a guy who's just kind of responsible for everything being shit. King Allant, Gwyn, Nishandra, Lawrence, and in this game, it's Pontiff Sullivan. This man is most certainly a peak boss. Yep, yeah, I think most people, me included obviously because it's my list, would probably put him up that high. Aldrich, the Devourer of Gods. You get quite a bit of nostalgia stuff. You're in Anor Londo, you're where you fought ONS. It's fucking Gwendolyn inside of a big goop monster. A lot of the moves have a nice visual flair to them. But on the other hand, the fight's a little bit annoying in some respects. That arrow attack, especially the tracking one in the second phase, not good. The fire trails on the floor, not good. Getting damaged by his teleport's not very good either. He's kind of a mixed bag. I would say Aldrich goes somewhere around here. Probably like around this area, I guess. Yorm the Giant. Yorm is a Storm Ruler fight. You use the special move of the Storm Ruler 5 times, and the boss is over. The only thing that improves this boss is if you do the Sigurd quest line. That adds like a whole nother layer to it that's really good. Bjorn's really good from like a lore perspective, the music for the fight's good, but the fight itself is like nothing. it doesn't even really have the same spectacle as the Storm King fight. So it goes like high up here, but there's just not much to it. It's fairly underwhelming. Dancer of the Boreal Valley. This fight, in my experience, and I think in the experiences of a lot of other people, is either pretty easy or one of the hardest bosses in the game. There's usually not much of an in-between. And I think the biggest reasons for that are, one, its movements are really weird. It doesn't move like most bosses. It's really hard to, like, get the telegraphs down and everything just because of how it moves. It moves around like it's dancing. The second thing is actually like a psychological thing involving the music for the boss. It doesn't really follow along with the movements. It doesn't follow along with the usual theme for Soulsborne bosses, which makes them really hard to predict, to read. And that's really cool. Dancer, most certainly a top quality boss. Osiros. He's okay. I don't really have too much to say about him. Some of his hitboxes are a little kooky. A lot of the, he's a bit slap happy, you know. A lot of times he just kind of spams around attacks, which means he gets stun locked a bit. Interesting from like a character perspective and stuff. I would say he's, let's see. I'd put him low quality. Low quality. Now, Champion Gundir. What if we took Phase 1 Gundir, but we just made that the whole fight, and then in his second phase he just gets faster and stronger and he can air juggle you? Would I put him above Sullivan, though? That is a tough one. That's a real toughie there. I'll think on it. I might move him. I might. I'm not sure. He's one of the few bosses that still intimidates me. Like, he's just so fast and strong. Every time I fight him, I'm so goddamn nervous. It's like with Orphan. Next we have Dragonslayer Armor. Another boss that intimidates me. It's just because he does so much fucking damage. He hits you so hard. The arena for the fight's pretty cool. The Pilgrim Butterflies toe the line. They could be annoying, but as long as you know how to manage them, which is more so managing your position once they activate in Phase 2, they're fine. They're good. Overall, it's a very, very high quality, you know, humanoid enemy fight. Not high quality, this high quality, I mean like top quality. Where would I put it in top quality? Probably somewhere around here? Yeah. Lothric and Lorian. If you guys watched my Dark Souls 3 playthrough, and if you've talked to me about Dark Souls 3, you know that this is actually my favorite fight from the base game. I think it's absolutely outstanding. I think the lore, the atmosphere, the character, the music, the movesets for the fight, they are all just so delightful. I have so much fun when I fight this boss. There are very few bosses I have this much fun fighting against. I have Phase 1 of that fight against Lorian down to a T. I can do that no hit almost any day of the week. That is how much the flow of that fight works. I've seen people that are like, oh, this fight's bullshit. Lorian's teleporting is so fucking annoying. It's so hard to keep track of his attacks and dodge out of the way of them. What do I say to that? Skill issue. Get fucked. Best fight in the base game. No question. No question for me. Now we have the Ancient Wyvern. It's a puzzle. Yeah. Has a little more spectacle than some of these, I guess. I put it like, I don't know. around there. Actually, the whole spectacle of it being a dragon does put it a little bit above some of these other boring fights. Nameless King. Do I need to describe much about this one? You fight him atop the clouds in a storm. Phase 1, he's on a fucking dragon. He's throwing lightning at you. You kill the dragon. The dragon, you know, it's got some of the camera issues that are typical for big FromSoft bosses. Then you go into Phase 2. And there's basically no issues with this guy. He has some of the delayed attacks that we'll see come back in Elden Ring later, which is kind of interesting to see that start a little bit here. But, like, Phase 2 is, like, borderline flawless. There's pretty much no issues with it. And it's fucking Gwyn's firstborn. Finally, after, like, 5 years, we got an answer on who Gwyn's firstborn is. Definitely a very good fight. Very, very good fight. Yeah, right up around here. Are you noticing the overall quality trends for Dark Souls 3? Soul of Cinder. Okay, folks. When I heard that phase transition for the first time, you know, when Gwyn's theme kicks in, I got fucking teary-eyed. It made me emotional. And I'm pretty sure that is an experience shared by many people. The Phase 1 is great. It's like, what, 4 different character classes? Because it's all of the chosen undeads ever. It's everyone that's ever linked to Flame. It's great. It's fantastic to fight against these, put into a boss that's like a larger sized humanoid, and it just keeps swapping between them. Sometimes the buffs will carry over between the phase transitions. It's really cool. And then Phase 2, it's Gwyn. It's Gwyn, but just with none of the problems that original Gwyn has. It was basically the perfect send-off to the trilogy. I would definitely put it up here. It is tremendous. And now, at long last, we get into the DLC. Woo! I love DLC. Do you know what I don't love in DLC? Lazy bosses. Champion Gravetender and its wolf. It's an NPC with unique weapon and then one of the wolf enemies. It's lazy. Goes up there because it's like, well, we gave him a new weapon that you get, and then we threw in a big wolf enemy. Well, isn't that lovely? It's mildly more effort than basically every single other boss on this list that isn't just fucking terrible. Sister Freed. Okay. Alright. So here's the deal. This fight, mechanically, is just straight up like a genuine masterpiece. It's one of the best things they've ever put together. These 3 phases are absolutely fantastic. You get the first phase just against Freed to learn her moveset and everything, and kind of learn how to cheese her a little bit. Then you get Phase 2, Ariandel comes into the picture, the arena gets larger, Friede gets slower, she has less of her moves, so they're both much easier to manage. You could, I think, hit both of them at the same time if you get the positioning down. Like if they're right next to each other and you got like a greatsword or something. So you can burn through Phase 2 really quickly. Then you get Phase 3, which is Black Flame Friede, essentially Phase 1 Friede on fucking speed. This fight is very long and very hard. I think it's probably the hardest boss in the game. I think it's almost too much. Almost. It toes the line very, very closely. One of the saving graces is that you can summon Gale even if you're not Embered, and he only shows up in Phase 2, because that's when you're gonna fucking need him, really. And he would probably die like halfway through Phase 2 if you summoned him right from the start. So they very clearly took into consideration that, yeah, this boss is really, really hard. I think more of my problem is with how insanely aggressive Black Flame Friede is. She is like an Elden Ring boss, in all honesty. She has so few windows for punishing, at least that I'm aware of. I don't think I've ever mastered this boss. This is the other boss that... Well, no, we have one more after this. That really, really intimidates me. I am always really nervous when I fight Friede. I think she's almost too aggressive in that third phase. Like, this fight is so long, and that third phase is so aggressive, that you need almost perfection for this boss. If you're doing it solo, Gale makes it a little bit more manageable. But any complaints that I personally have about this fight, which are really just nitpicks and like kind of my own personal taste, are not a good reason to like take this thing out of like peak. I like Ludwig more. I like these three more, but you know, the quality for Sister Friede puts her like way the fuck up here. And at last, the Ring City, Peak Dark Souls. Demon Prince. I like the dynamic element of this fight. It's good that the demons swap between being ranged and up-close fighters. They are straight up designed around being a balanced gank fight. I like that depending on which one you kill, the second phase is different. I also like that the second phase is basically just an upgrade of the first one that's really good, and the phase transition is really fucking cool. In my personal opinion, this is the best gank boss they've ever done. The best duo fight that they have ever done. I will put it here. For me personally. Of course, we have to have one lazy boss for the DLC. Half-Light Spear of the Church. It's just Old Monk again, really. So I will put it right here with Old Monk. Except I think Half-Light's moveset is better than the Old Monk's moveset. Dark Eater Madeir. Arguably the best dragon fight they've ever done. I don't need to go into all the reasons why. Mostly just you do double damage to his head. The fight encourages you to stay upright in his face as much as physically possible, which is terrifying given how gigantic and damaging he is. The last boss that really intimidates me. Almost everything he does just has so much power and impact behind it, especially the big laser attacks with the delayed explosions. Then with Phase 2 he starts getting like fucking, what is it, Pursuers? Is that the name of the spell? Like just insane things, AoEs. But it's such a rewarding challenge. It is so satisfying to fight a gigantic ancient dragon like this that I would be remiss to not put him up here in Peak somewhere. Notice all the Dark Souls 3 bosses we have in Peak, because like, fuck, my god, does the quality of the bosses in this game just get so high. Can we get much higher? I would say we can. Slave Knight Gale. Do I need to explain it? Do I have to? I would like to. I love gushing about Gale. He's my favorite boss in any FromSoft game ever. Still the top dog. Yet to be dethroned. He is the peak. He is the fucking best. He's the shit. You're fighting him at the end of time. You go, you clear out the deserts, you kill Shura, you kill that one Ring City Knight. You and Gale are the last people at the fucking end of time. He has spent the entirety of eternity eating everyone to amass the Dark Soul. Then you get into the actual fight with him, which starts off with an Artorias reference, of course. His moveset is perfect. The timing's on it, the satisfaction that comes from dodging through all of his attacks, it's perfect. You're fighting him out in, I think, maybe the biggest arena ever. It's just the whole fucking desert. All the room in the world. Phase 2. He gets up, he fights like a man, starts doing a bunch of magical attacks. There's now a trail on his sword attacks, so you have to dodge even more precisely to avoid his sword and the trail. He starts doing the Way of White circles, pulls out the fucking repeating crossbow. Phase 3, he starts doing kind of pursuers, and then wherever they land on the ground, lightning strikes. I think he gets a couple new moves. You know, he gets the big flipping up through the air crossbow thing. And the music. It's the best song they've ever done. And, of course, we have to talk about, like, the vibe for the fight. You are fighting some nameless, accursed undead. Some guy who is a slave, a nobody from the beginning of time, here at the end of time. Two nobodies fighting over the dried up scraps of the dark soul of man. It is a perfect fight. Thematically, visually, aesthetically, musically, mechanically, it is the absolute magnum opus of FromSoft's boss design. I cannot heap enough praise upon Slave Knight Gale. Every time I start a new playthrough of Dark Souls 3, the thing I am most excited for is eventually getting to fight Gale. Do you have any idea how insane that is? That the thing I look forward to most is the end of the journey? That is the thing that motivates me the most. That is not the case for some of these other games. For a lot of them, it's just something along the way. There is something else in the game that I am the most excited for. For this, it's the end. The very end of all of Dark Souls. He is the last Dark Souls boss ever, and he is perfect. He is the absolute best Dark Souls boss. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my placements. Where would you put the bosses yourself? I'm very excited to see what you guys have to say. But with that, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I'm doing another Elden Ring lore playthrough. I have some more of these videos. We're going to get back to the Elden Ring lore videos at some point. If you enjoy discussing Soulsborne games with other people, you should check out my Discord server. I've linked that down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.